Hi everyone. So I think I might be at risk of sounding repetitive here, but like because I think I remember talking about some of these things in previous episodes, but I can't remember. So sorry, but this is about like, is autistic paranoia a thing, or am I just a paranoid person? Like, I am not schizophrenic. I'm not the kind of person that is like walking down an aisle in a store thinking people are following her. Like, it's not like that. I mean, well, I did do that years ago when I thought people thought I was stealing, but I think I shared that before. But like, aside from that, I don't feel like people are looking at me all the time. Just in certain situations. So what brought this on, or what made me think about it, was yesterday we had like this snowstorm pass through. I think they called it like a nor'easter. And so I shoveled yesterday, and I know I've shared before how like we have a snowblower. I just choose not to use it because it's just too difficult for me, even though it would make my life easier. Which makes no sense. But like, I much prefer shoveling because I can do that. So the snow that was out there yesterday was like that heavy stuff, like that wet snow stuff. So like it could still have been snowblowed because I saw other people doing it, but I chose to just go out 3 different times yesterday and shovel because I was like, oh, good exercise. And this is actually the most like strenuous type of activity I've done since my surgery. So I was curious to see like if my stomach would start hurting or anything, and it didn't. But what happened was the first time, was it the first time? Yeah, the first time I went out, there's not much to shovel. We have like a little patch of sidewalk on both sides of the house, and then the driveway, and then the steps coming up to the house. That's it. But it feels like a lot when like you're shoveling, but that's fine, whatever. So like I'm out there doing it, and maybe I was out there for 15 minutes, and I was at the end of the shoveling, and I started feeling a little bit nauseous. And I was like, oh, I haven't felt nauseous in months. Like, I do not miss this feeling. Because it was like pretty bad. But like, I dismissed it. I was like, I don't have like Sylvester the bowling ball baby in me anymore, so I should be fine. But as soon as I got into the house, like I just felt so hot, like so on fire. So sorry if this is TMI, but I stripped. I like took off my hoodie because that's all I wear outside during the winter, my gloves and my hat, and then the sweatpants and the boots. And so I just took those off because they felt like they were fucking burning me. That's how hot I was. And I turned on my fan that I have pointed at me in my recliner, and thank goodness my recliner is leather because that shit was wet after because of all my sweat. Like, I had to clean that off, but it's easier to clean leather. But I laid there on the recliner in front of the fan for like half an hour. But before I got to the recliner, I had to grab the wastebasket, the tiny little wastebasket I have in my room, so that I can dry heave in it because I was very nauseous. And it was not pleasant. Like, I don't miss throwing up. And then I was like, oh my God, nothing's coming out. And I realized I forgot to eat for the last like day and a half because I've been like so hyper focused on like this task that I've been doing, like this project I'm working on, and I forgot to eat. And I was like, whoa, I didn't think I was that type of person. I thought like I remembered to eat when I'm supposed to, but I guess not. Because like next thing I knew, I had lost like 5 pounds in like 2 days. Yeah, so anyways, the point of that was like there was nothing that came up, thank goodness, because I hate throwing up. Like, who likes it? But it was like dry heaving and a little bit of like the water that I had earlier. And like it reminded me of how I feel during the summer when I go out and I mow the lawn like a normal person, but then like I can't stay out there too long because I start feeling nauseous. So if you've been following along, like months ago, I had talked about like, well, I've been like this my whole life. Like, you know, every so often I get like overheated. And then when I found out that I had Sylvester growing inside of me, I attributed my nausea to him. I was like, well, he's fucking up my insides and nothing is working properly. So that's probably why I kept getting nauseous. And I'm sure that that was a huge part of it because that fucker was big. But it's not just that. So when I had cooled off, I looked some stuff up and I was like, is this heat stroke? And I did not meet those symptoms because that meant I would have had to have been in the hospital. So it's like, oh, good, it's not that. And then I was like, well, what about this heat exhaustion thing? It's not like I don't know what these are. I just didn't stop before to kind of like really read them, like what the symptoms are. And so I did that, and it looks like I just have like a regular recurring case of heat exhaustion, I guess. Which makes sense. And so like the sorry for the talking. I looked up a few different articles and I was reading them, and they were saying that people experience this most frequently during the summer months, which makes sense because it's like super fucking hot and that's when I get nauseous. But I guess people experience it whenever they're doing something very physically exertive or whatever the fuck the word is. But like when you're doing like a bunch of exercise stuff, you can get overheated pretty easily, which can fuck with your body. And like, so it turns out that I guess people just have this, and you have to constantly be aware of like what you're doing and how your body is feeling. I think you're supposed to do that anyways, but so, you know, I like to self-diagnose all the time because I feel like why bother going to see somebody when I already know like what I most likely have. And so it looks like I fit that category. I didn't know that there was I didn't know that heat exhaustion was like a thing. I thought that was just something that people got once in a while when they were outside in 90-degree weather for too long or something like that, and they didn't drink water. But no. So that's pretty embarrassing. But what brings the paranoia on is like it reminded me of this past summer, when I felt that I was going to throw up because I had been outside doing something for a certain amount of time and it was too hot, and like I had to try to get into the house to throw up in the trash can, like the little waste basket thing I have, because that's the closest thing I can get to. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, how embarrassing would it be if I did not make it inside the house? And I had half of that thought yesterday because I really didn't think I was actually nauseated. I thought that was going to pass or something, but it didn't. And so it's just kind of embarrassing because like, whenever I go outside, I assume that the people on the street are all at their windows, if they're home, looking at me. And I'm not like, I mean, that sounds like so pretentious, but like, that's not how I mean it. I know it's irrational, but this is how I think, because especially with like the pandemic and like half the people on my street during the pandemic switched to working at home, and they're still doing that. So there's a lot more people home all the time now. And so like when I go outside and I'm shoveling, I just am assuming that people are just watching me. And like, I try my very best not to slip and fall because that would be embarrassing. I don't know, like I feel like this when I'm mowing the lawn. Like I don't know where this comes from. I think I've talked about this before. Like, is there such a thing as autistic paranoia or what? Like some of these things I'm having a hard time sorting out. But it's just like, I know it comes down to like, I just don't want to be embarrassed and have people like, yeah, I just don't want people to see me doing things that are like, I mean, like, if I started throwing up outside, like, halfway through shoveling, I would not want anybody fucking seeing that. And I already think that people are staring at me when I'm outside doing shit. So how embarrassing would that be if all of a sudden I was like, like in the snow? Like, if I didn't get inside when I did yesterday, I would have been on all fours on the sidewalk, dry heaving. And who knows what people would have thought if they saw that. So yeah, I guess I still do care what people think. And I still, like, I'm realizing that this is such an issue for me because, you know, like, on one hand, it doesn't matter what people think about me. That's their business. It doesn't affect me. But then on the other hand, sometimes I let it affect me and I create these stories in my head that aren't even really true, probably. Some other things I've done that, like, have been so, like, embarrassing. Just things that I wish that people didn't see. Like, one time, years ago, I was parallel parking, and I hit, like, one of my supervisors or boss, whatever she was, management. I hit her car because I didn't know how to parallel park properly, and it was on a side street. Like, there was no choice but to parallel park. And everybody, like, whoever was there saw me fucking just run into her car. And then, like, I remember thinking, oh, who's going to stick around to make sure that I do the right thing and, like, go inside? Like, does anybody even know that I work at this place? And then there was another time years and years ago where I was driving around back of somebody's house, and to get to the back, you had to go off to the side. And I ran my car into the house, and I just kept going. Like, it was just this loud, like, metal on concrete. And most people would stop as soon as they heard the sound. I just kept driving. I just kept going. And that brought some people out of their houses. So that was fucking embarrassing. I got into a car accident that was not my fault. Also years ago. And, like, I was, what was I doing? I was turning, and I had the right of way, but the person just kept coming, and, like, they hit my car. And so I pulled into, because I was pulling into, like, a parking lot for, like, a store. So I just pulled in there, and the lady followed me, and, like, she got out of her car, and she was one of those people that just stormed over to me and started fucking yelling at me like I was the one that caused the accident. And I know I wasn't. I was in shock of having been hit by somebody. And then to have them fucking come after me like that. So, like, it was just embarrassing because, like, there were people everywhere, and this lady was yelling at me, and it's not like those people all saw the accident happen. So, like, they're thinking that, like, I really caused it. And, you know, like, years and years ago, I mean, it was like, what? Not years and years ago, maybe like a decade, 12 years ago, I don't know. But I looked like a little punk, I guess, like, you know, like, I had a band tee on, and I had, like, tons of tattoos, and people were judgmental in that part of New York that I was at. So I just was like, great, they're going to think that I really did cause this accident just based on the way that I look. Nowadays, that's not really a factor because everybody's got tattoos and shit. But so there was that. There was this one time when, I don't know, was this like 6 years ago? I was on my way to work, the last job that I had when I worked for somebody else, and it was like a 37-minute drive, and I got to about 5 minutes from my place of employment, and then my car just kind of just pittered out. And my wife worked at the same place too, so, like, she was like maybe 10 minutes behind me whenever she left the house to go to work. So I called her, and I was like, dude, like, I'm on the side of the road, like, the car just stopped working. So, and this is a main road, like, not like a main road, but like a busy road where, like, at the time I was a counselor. So, like, a bunch of clients use that road to, like, get to treatment. And so when my wife got there, she got out, she figured out how to get my car putt-putting. Like, it just was, oh my God, it was so fucking embarrassing. Like, she was able to get it putt-putting until I got it into, like, the parking lot, and then we could call for, like, a mechanic. But, like, anyways, the point is that a bunch of my clients saw me in my fucking car putt-putting. And they were laughing at me when they were passing by in, like, their cars or, like, their taxis. And, like, it's funny now, but it was not funny then, because I was, like, I was still very much about, like, I choose what you get to see and know about me. And, like, when stuff like that happens, you can't hide it, really. Like, people just see it. And then it's like, oh, I don't know. It just feels invasive. But it was, like, so fucking embarrassing. And I just get this paranoia, like, oh my God. Like, it just feels like every time something like that happens, somebody's around witnessing it. And I just probably am making up stories about the thoughts that they're having about me when that probably isn't even true. Because, like, when I see somebody doing something, I mean, if I saw somebody slip and fall, I wouldn't laugh because that hurts. So I would hope that other people don't laugh. But, like, when we got laid off, when we had first moved to Syracuse, we were struggling with, like, we were able to meet our bills all the time, but it wasn't easy. So, like, one month, Janice, who was our landlord at the time, she's like, if you paint the house, because the house was fucking ugly. It was like this ugly tan color. Ugh. And then she's like, if you paint the house, we'll knock off rent for the month. And rent was like $700. And, you know, like, painting an entire house is way more than $700. But you know what? Like, we were not going to sit there and complain because she bought the paint. She let us choose the color. And I painted a house. Like, I've never done that before. I was, like, up on the ladder on top of the house. And, like, but it was embarrassing too. Like, because everybody can see you. I don't know. Like, I'm just a person living their life outside, doing shit that other people do. And, like, I always feel like I'm being judged somehow. Like, do they not think I'm painting this right? Or, you know, like, what if our house turns out to look shitty? Which it didn't. It looks awesome. We did a really good job. But, you know, like, everybody can see you doing it. I don't know. I don't like being looked at, and I'm sure I'm not looked at half as often as I think I am. But that was embarrassing. The time a few months ago when we ordered the dumpster because we were, like, cleaning out our house, and, like, it was this big purple dumpster called Dumpster Diva. That was the name of the business, which I will definitely use them again. But I did not know that was what the dumpster would look like. It's just this fucking bright purple with Dumpster Diva on it and, like, a different shade of purple. And, like, you can't miss it no matter where you are. It just stands out. And I remember thinking, like, God, I just don't want people knowing some stuff. I don't know why. Like, I just don't want attention drawn to me if it doesn't need to be. And so I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, why can't it just be a normal looking dumpster? Everybody else gets normal looking dumpsters, but ours has to be fucking purple. I don't know. When I was walking up and down the sidewalk after my surgery in November, I know that one of the neighbors across the street, she was just fucking staring because she's out there with her dog all the time trying to draw attention to herself. I don't know. But that was embarrassing because she was just like, she didn't know what was going on. And I was afraid that she was going to just walk across the street and be like, hey, you know, what happened to you? And then I was going to have a conversation. And, you know, like, I'm not telling people anything if I can help it, if it's not their business. And then there's this other time, I guess I abandoned grocery carts a lot more than I thought that I did, because this was also, like, before I moved to Syracuse, and I was at this grocery store called Hannaford's, and I had a full cart. I don't remember why, because, like, I lived by myself, so I don't know why I had a full cart of shit, because that was, like, you know, I just usually got a basket worth. But anyways, I'm up at the checkout, I've got my cart, it's, you know, everything got scanned, it's bagged, and I go to pay, and my card gets declined, and have you ever seen that meme where it's like this picture of this gremlin's face and their eyes are looking off to the side and they're bulging, and then underneath the picture it's like, this is what I look like when my card gets declined at stores? That's what I felt like. It was fucking embarrassing. I had no idea like why it got declined, because like I knew I had money in my account. I was in college, so like I wasn't rich, but I knew I had enough money to pay for the groceries I was buying. And I tried it again and it got declined. And there was just this line of people behind me. They could see what was happening. The cashier was like, oh, and I didn't have any other forms of payment. I had no credit cards at the time. I was just like, it's just in my like early 20s. I didn't really know anything about credit cards. So what did I fucking do? I just was like, oh, it's out in the car, like, I'll be right back. And then I just left and I just drove off. And, so I did go back to that store. Oh, no, this was a different Hannaford's. I went to never mind. There was one Hannaford's I didn't go back to because I knocked a display over. And then there's this Hannaford's I didn't go back to because I abandoned a fucking grocery cart. And I thought they had cameras and that they were going to be on the lookout for me when I came back and be like, hey, why'd you do that? It's just embarrassing. And so, like, after that day, I got my first credit card, which created a whole other slew of financial issues for me in the years to come. But like, I got a credit card, and to this day, I don't go and purchase anything anywhere in public unless I have two forms of payment, my debit card and a credit card. Because if something happens with the debit card, then the credit card will work, because I know that that's got tons of free whatever on there. Not free, but I don't use my credit cards anymore, really. And it turned out that the reason that my card was declined was because I made a math mistake with my budgeting. Like, that shit was fucking endless. But that was like the start of like, oh fuck, like I'm fucking up my money now, because I wasn't making as much as I was in the military. So I had to like actually budget, and I didn't know how to do that. And I made a math mistake, and that's why my card got declined. So it's just shit like that is so embarrassing. And yeah, is like, it sounds very paranoid. It sounds weird to say this out loud. It makes me feel like, I sound like, oh, I'm some unique person that people are just, they want to fucking fly to their windows when they hear my door open and me step outside. Like, it's not like that. I just don't know how I cannot feel like this. Like, I would be happy. There's this one house in like the rich part of Syracuse, and they have these huge, I don't know if they're called hedges or whatever, but like they're taller, they're as tall as their house, and they go around the house so that you can barely see it until you get in the gate past the fucking whatever those are, hedges or whatever. But basically it hides the house. And I remember being with Leash and I was like, look at that fucking shit. Like, I wish we had that around our house, because I don't want people being able to see. I don't know. I don't even like going out on the porch to put my trash in the trash can. Because I think that, I don't know, like, it just makes me sound a little bit loony when I say this stuff out loud. So that's why I'm hoping that maybe this is an autistic thing, so I don't feel as strange as I feel when these things happen. And then, like, the first thing I do is, who saw that? But yeah, yesterday that reminded me of that, because I barely made it inside before I threw up. And like, it's kind of funny that my first thought wasn't, oh no, what's wrong? It was, oh no, get inside before anybody sees. Whatever. I don't even know. Like, I hope this is relatable. I'm still trying to figure this out. Like, I don't know. I like to put things in categories, like, I like to know, okay, this happens for this reason, or this is because of that, and this explains, you know what I mean? I just like to try to categorize things when I can, because in my mind, like, it's easier for me to understand stuff. And so like I'm trying to fit this part in of what I think could be autistic into a category of autism, but I don't know if it's just I'm a paranoid person. I don't know. Does this make any sense to anybody? If you're paranoid and like you have these kinds of thoughts, can you please email me and let me know? My email's somewhere wherever I don't know, it's on the description or something. But I would really like to know this because I mean, I definitely don't have schizophrenia because I would know that and I would probably sound like it too. But I don't like that I'm so paranoid, and I guess I'm going to have to talk about this with my therapist. I don't go back to see her till May because, I've been doing pretty decently emotionally and with life. So, I don't know. I would like some answers to this. So reach out if like you've got any for me. Hopefully this was relatable. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.